Hi everyone, this is Greg from Greg's Whisky Guide. Happy to see you again. Thanks for your comment, your support, and again for everyone coming back to see more. Today it's a bit different video because I'm gonna not really compare but speak about 3 whiskies from the same distillery but are different content wise mostly, and also ABV wise and a bit age wise, but still of course there's a link in them. I have 2 samples and I have 1 bottle. My bottle is the KILKERRAN 12 and it's I would say one of the early batches, because this was launched, if I'm not mistaken, in 2016, and it's a 2016 batch. So very interesting, one of the earliest. For the 2 others I have only samples. One, I have to say, super generous one from Luna Arran. It's the KILKERRAN 8 years old, Cask Strength 2018. So 3rd batch. Bourbon cask, while the 12 is let me not mistake, 70% bourbon and 30% sherry. There you go. And while the last one is a sample from Roy Aqvavitae and is a 2019 Cask Strength version, but Oloroso Sherry only casked. Voila voila, as we say in French. Recently I've been, not me especially, but some did ask me the question as well on another context, about why, what happened to Campbeltown, basically, to get back to 2 distilleries only, and then more recently to 3 distilleries, and what happened. Well, in the 20th century, early 20th century, because there was some success. It was one of the most famous producing region of whiskey, Campbeltown. So what happened basically? So for this video, I'm gonna use, of course, for the basic things, I prepared Malt Whiskey Yearbook 2021, but also very interesting for closed distilleries and reopening distilleries. This, which I already shown in my book, special books video about books about whiskey, Scotch Mist, Scotland Lost Distilleries by Brian Townsend. Published, let me check, published in 2000 and reprinted 2004. Neil Wilson Publishing Limited, Glasgow. This is a very interesting book about Scotch whisky history, and I haven't been reading it entirely, but every now and then I go back to it for some references. And yeah, we're gonna get into the context. GLENGYLE is a distillery belonging partly to G&A Mitchell, who run SPRINGBANK, and also the independent company called Cadenhead, but also belongs to GLENGYLE Limited, which sure, it's the running company of the KILKERRAN single malt, but because there is a GLENGYLE brand in Scotland, they cannot use the name GLENGYLE for the single malt, so they picked KILKERRAN. That said, KILKERRAN did exist back into 1872 and was founded by someone of the family, of the Mitchell family, so William Mitchell. GLENGYLE today is approximately 750,000 of liters of pure alcohol per year capacity. They use both bourbon and sherry casks, mainly, if not only. I have a doubt now if they haven't done some very, very specific limited edition with something else, but I'm not sure. So back into let's say the half of the 19th century, it was said there were 33 distilleries in Campbeltown. And when Alfred Barnard, the great whiskey writer, I have my book behind in brown there, visited the distillery in 1885, and he mentioned 20 distilleries. Problem is, most of them then closed between 1915 and 1934. And of some that are related to the Glengyle distillery, there were Dalarran, Dalintober, and the Campbeltown distillery. Campbeltown distillery closed in 1924, and I cannot even read. Yeah, those are three distilleries a bit linked to Glengyle, that's why I'm mentioning them. And Dalarran 1922. Let's mention among the distilleries that were let's say the 20 last remaining until, let's say, the 20s, and 34 was the last that was closed. You can see the list here, but anyway, you will have a link to the. You can notice Glengyle, but also Hazelburn and Longrow, and that's why those closed distilleries now, where names were chosen by the Jean A. Mitchell to pay tribute to old distilleries for the different expressions. So the triple distilled Hazelburn and the heavily peated 2 times distilled Longrow. What else can I say quickly? I don't want to be too long. In the context of Campbeltown, you can see a view of an old distillery from Campbeltown. It is not specified, but for instance, if I go further, we can see the Ardlussa distillery, which was also an old one, and you can see some confusing names as Glen Nevis, which is weird. So yeah, just gonna pick up some sentences of the book to make you understand and answer the question someone asked. So the rise and fall of whiskey making in Campbeltown is a drama that will fill not just one book but several. In all, 33 distilleries were founded in this one small, very supremely isolated town near the mouth of Kildare. In its glory days, there were 2 dozens of more distilleries in operation. So we have, when Barnard called in 1885, there were still 20, most of those still going in 1914, and were reopened after World War I. However, by 1930, the tally was down to 3. Another was to fade in the next decade, and then they go to the current situation. But the book was written before Glengyle reopened in 2004. I'm gonna go back to the history of Glengyle a bit later on. What caused Campbeltown to become the Detroit of Scotch whisky to the extent it was named Spiritsville of Whiskyopolis? There's no single snap answer, just a series of helpful coincidences. So, to summarize this, there were links to Ireland and, of course, involvement in distilling, because it is said now that most probably the distilling of whiskey and Ushkabo, Aqvavitae came from Ireland, of course, way before, 3,000 years before the Egyptians. The Copt from Egypt did invent distillation, but not for things to drink, like I already explained in a video. So yeah, it was a very fertile place, especially the plain from Campbeltown to Makri-Hanish. Sorry for the pronunciation. Illicit distilling was certainly rife around Campbeltown in the late 18th century. Big maltings at Kinloch Distillery, local also coppersmiths. Also, there was trying to summarize. Yeah, there was a big, even if it was still narrow gauge, like they say, railway. So it helped also establish Campbeltown. There were a lot of steam-driven shipping coming into Campbeltown, and giving the town an advantage compared to landlocked Highland distilleries. Brian Townsend. Last but not least, many people had emigrated from Argyll in bad times to North America and elsewhere. So they kept in touch and helped introduce Campbeltown whiskies to the US and Canada. I didn't know that. So yeah, lots of smoke, brewing, and soggy draft. As they say, millions of gallons of port ale were dumped into Campbeltown Loch, which became an ecological disaster area. So that's another problem, pollution. But he says it's not an irresponsible thing. Only so there were. Distillers Association was established. The duty increase. Yeah, also the army was involved as a major customer. But shipment ceased after 1914. So yeah, the problem of course was World War I, and the coal seam ran out. The mine also, there were many people employed in the mine. It closed around 1924, ending cheap local fuel supplies. The closure also proved the death knell for the railway, which could not exist on passenger and summer day trip traffic alone. So it ceased running in around 1930, and even stopped with the rails scrapped. So this didn't help, and back into the early 30s there were only 3 distilleries holding on. re-charred finally closing in 34, and Springbank and Glen Scotia. There were also, he mentions also a dozen others, I'm not going to quote now, which also closed earlier than the 20 I was speaking about. But now I'm going to go back to GLENGYLE. So GLENGYLE was founded in 1872, closed in 1925, so it fits the story, the overall story. Then after, to put a long story short, the ownership did change several times until Hedley Wright from the Springbank company, and it's the owner of Springbank, in 2000 acquired the distillery. Also because in 1998 the SWA, Scotch Whisky Association, stated that because there were only 2 distilleries, the Campbeltown region couldn't be called as a official whiskey producing region on the maps and regulations and on the labels. So it was also an interested goal for Hedley Wright to reopen GLENGYLE in order to put back Campbeltown area in the map. And so did he. And yeah, so for people who were not very much about, who don't know, who hasn't dig enough into whiskey history now, you need to have 3 distilleries in an area to be called a specific region. That's why a lot of islands of Scotland cannot call themselves a region. But this is going to change most probably in the following years, because for instance in Isle of Skye you have now 2 distilleries, Talisker and Torraveg. In Arran there are 2 separate distilleries, even if they belong to the same owner. and it is possible if a third one is open in those two areas, for instance, they will come separate regions. Islands, for instance, is not recognized as a region. They're part of the Highlands group. So now, to go back to Kilkerran, in 2004, there's the first distillation. At this point, I have to say, even if occurred later, that there's a big figure there that I want to pay tribute. I have other pictures, but I'm going to show you the Malt Whiskey Yearbook one. It's a very important figure in the whiskey industry, a whiskey legend. Yes, it's Frank McHardy. I have the privilege to interview, have dinner with, and be even in a festival in front of his stand. I have a nice picture with it, or I'm playing as if I was part of his stand, but I was in front of it working for Sullivan's Cove back in 2011. It was fun. So this 57 years in the whiskey industry, hear that. This guy worked in Invergordon in 1963, then Tamnavully in 1966, Bushmills 1986, and then at the same time running, helping out for Springbank and the two other expressions made there. And then he got full-time at Springbank in 2013, also monitoring, directing the whiskey school of Springbank, which is one of the most demanding one, as I heard. Then after that, he helped also, of course, and then before that to work for the distillation in GLENGYLE, produced the Kilkerran, and is now a consultant, supposed retired, but has many consultants for some distilleries all over the world. If I'm not mistaken, even in New Zealand, but I'm not sure. So back to Kilkerran. In 2007 there was a first limited release, and 2019 started the series called no age statement, but series called Work in Progress, which when you buy the 12 years old, at least in the beginning, I don't know if it's now, but I don't have another bottle. Now you are finding this with the color charts that explain the labels, and the year number 1, 2, 3 up to 7 is not the year, is the numbers of the releases in the Work in Progress series. So yeah, this is the definitive list, as they say, of the Work in Progress from 2009 to 2015. Knowing that in 2016 they released the first age statement expression, which is the 12 years old. And I'm going to try it very soon now. Then in 2017 they released the first 8 years old Cask Strength, which I don't have a bottle, but looks like this as well. There's a bit of a thing with Malt Whiskey Yearbook, because I'm not super sure, but the sample I have is supposed to be 2018, but they're mentioning only 2019 as the bourbon release, 8 years old Cask Strength, so I'm not sure. And on the sample of Luna Arran, again, big thank you. It's written 2018, so I guess there was a release back then. While the sample from Roy Aqvavitae is from 2019 and is the heavily sherried one. Now in 2019 they also released heavily peated at 84 ppm, which I don't have, but it's way younger. It's 3-4 years old, something like that. 2020 the 16 years old was released. What can I say? Yeah, so basically GLENGYLE was mothballed for 79 years, which is crazy. When it got acquired 2000 and first distillation again, I mean new, in 2004. What else can I say before getting to the tasting? Yeah, I'm gonna go back to the composition of the yeah, some years there were 2 releases. For instance, in 2013, 14 and 15 there were 2 releases of work in progress, one bourbon cask matured, the other a sherry cask matured. So that's it for the history, and we're going to enter now into the tasting of the 3 whiskies, starting. Oh, it's again not enough tall. Oh my god, what can I do? I should have been, yeah, let's say I'm gonna do this. I'm not very satisfied with this, but yeah, it's because of the camera angle. It has changed since I have the new screen, so I kind of struggle to do things as they were before. Now about the 12 years old, it's a 70% bourbon and 30% sherry matured whiskey. All the whiskies from GLENGYLE, aka KILKERRAN single malt, are non-chill filtered, non-colored, and some are 46%, some are cask strength. What else can I say? I'm going a bit quick there, but I had this around 45 euros. The price has jumped a bit, and the availability, as many Springbanks do, is more difficult now, and even more for the sherry expression and the cask strength ones, which are getting crazy. And also there's also some flipping and malevolent, let's say, collecting for flipping and stuff happening, unfortunately. I'm gonna talk about the rating later on. I tried this, also was a gift from a friend. I tried this back into 3 times, so my rate is, I can say, definitive now. Okay. Lots of talking again, but I'm gonna put timestamps. So on to the KILKERRAN 12. Right from the start, I have to tell you, this is not far from Springbank, honestly. The difference is not super important, maybe less impact from the malted barley, the kind of raw porridgey malted barley that Springbank used to be and is still a bit now. Maybe there's more complexity in Springbank than KILKERRAN, but it's not very far style-wise. And oh yeah, I wanted to introduce a new concept. I'm gonna write it down because I forgot in the preparation of this video. I'm gonna introduce a new criteria, which is a very subjective and a bit of a superficial one, which I'm gonna call Campbeltown funkiness level. Yeah, it's something a bit funny, but for me it's just a funkiness level, and I'm gonna go in the percentage. So I don't know. I tried this live yesterday with not this one, but and I talked for the first time of this level of funkiness. Well, it's a bit of a joke, to be honest, but the funkiness, once again, it's hard to define, but basically it's the way the spirit's a bit dirty. It has some notes that feel not industrial, but like a garage smells, so kind of a motor oil, gas oil, can include also some peat smoke and coal and tar. Some unusual and partly organic, partly manufactured by men, so that's what I said, engine oil, etc., and petrol, and so lots of things that you can also find, by the way, in some traditional pot still rum from the Barbados island and Guyana, Caroni rum, for instance, and others. So yeah, the funkiness is here. I would say on the nose I will put a 55% of funkiness, but on the palate I think it's a bit more. So on the nose, yeah, it's a slightly farmy, it's slightly floral, slightly malty. Not sure there's licorice in there. Maybe a hint of it. There's some over-infused tea. Some very, very shy ripe fruit on the background. Whether it's apple, rotten apple, pear, stuff like that. It's very subdued. Yeah, I'm gonna go to the palate now. Yeah, 60% funkiness. If I may say. So again, on the palate, it's quite those organic elements. Not really farmy on this one. This is not Bora, this is not Port Charlotte. It's sweeter. It's a gentle, more gentle than some long rows, mind you, and then some late Springbanks. Springbank 12 Cask Strength. I killed a bottle yesterday. It was not very funky, but it was way more peated, also the ABV probably, than this one. This is gentle. Again, you have some more positive notes, I would say, of ripe apples, maybe pears, but it's not Lagavulin either. It's something different. It's not an Islay. I think you can distinguish that. There's some teaish elements, but very subdued, leafy a bit. Hint of hay, but not fresh hay, not fresh cut. Some leather, and this is common to Lagavulin as well. This is coastal, but it is not very significant. Of, for instance, there's no iodine, there's not much salt. That's not much sea spray. It's not much seaweed. I don't have either. I don't have either aniseed or star anise. I don't have all these markers of Islay. So it's rather partly funky, a bit organic, a bit modern, smoky, slightly smoky, very gentle smoke. So if I had to compare it with something, no, it's definitely different. Hard to can't compare it to Benriach, can't compare it to an Ardmore. If you think continental peat. Can even compare it to Highland Park, because there's some heather honey branches mixed with the peat, as they say, so it's not really comparable. It stands on its own. I had a few drops. I struggle to get precise notes, honestly, I apologize, but it's very pleasant. It's a pleasant mix, very malty notes. I would say it's not first fill, probably second fill bourbon. The spirit is really expressing itself very well, even after 12 years. Let me... So this was topped with the bottle kill New Drum Drinker coin, by the way. Let me put this back. I don't need this anymore. Let's put that away. Next one we're gonna try is, and it's a very generous sample. Thank you very much again, Luna Arran, you're the best. So this is the 8 years old 2018 release, third batch, 56.4 all bourbon casks and Cask Strength. And of course we're going to finish by the Oloroso, which is the most radical one, if I may say. So this, like I said, 70% bourbon, 30% sherry for the 12. Now 100% bourbon. On the nose I get no funkiness. Or yeah, okay, 20%. Let's say. Let's put that here. By the way, I rated the 12 years old 91 out of 100. This one we're gonna see if I keep the same rate as the two first two first trials, while for this one I have less, so there's only, I'm gonna do probably only two. The second is today trials before rating it, but the rate will be with reservation because it's a special dram and probably needs to open up and a bit low down on the bottle to be estimated, maybe with 20%, 30 cl less, 20 cl less, let's say, to be really appreciated at its best. It's a guess. We will go back to this anyway. So bourbon, Cask Strength, Kilkerran, 8 years old. Yeah, more smoky, more apple, golden apples, sweet spices, some ginger and pepper, vanilla. What did I get else? Yeah, this one starts to be a bit medicinal. I didn't say nothing for the nose because it was a bit closed. Not much thing I could pick without the help of the palate, except the funkiness, a little hay, a little leather, some licorice, some gentle smoke, even at 56.5. On the palate it's a bit more aggressive, but stays quite well balanced. Let me try again without water. Okay, I'm gonna upgrade a bit the level, but not so much. It is a bit frustrating. I was expecting from something more in terms of complexity and maybe some more fruity elements, but everything is toned down. Probably second fill bourbon as well, or third fill, or a mix of different fills. Not much vanilla and citrus fruit and coconut coming on, so it's not Springbank, early Springbank, I mean early 20,000. The profile of Springbank has changed. I'm gonna cover Springbank later on, but this is very interesting to see how the Springbank 10, for instance, has changed over the years drastically. The early ones I tried were almost non-peated, believe me or not. Gonna try this one with the water. Then some vanilla. Coconut and almonds are starting to waking up. It's oily as well. There's almost some floral exuberance, toned down, but trying to get out of the bouquet. Now let's see on the palate. Okay, funkiness is back. This one I will say 70 to a bit more at a level of funkiness. 75, let's say. Now it's more coveting, filling the palate with some dusty smoke, but not so much. It's not smoke char like contemporary tam douce, for instance, and it's not ashy smoke as some Lefroy or Ardbegs. Not even speaking about Octomore early editions. Sorry. Last, no, I'm gonna save some to go back to it after the last dram. So this one is rated 89 out of 100, and I don't think it's gonna go over that, but it is very good rating. Everything over 80, I don't remember my scale now. I'm gonna be into trouble. Let me check a second if I have it here. I'm not sure. Yeah. 81 to 86.5 out of 100. From decent to quality whiskey worth buying, good for beginners, with enough qualities to be tasted, good balance, pleasant taste, in a good path. So this one 89. 87 to 89.5. Interesting, good whiskey, attractive, worth buying or collecting. A good whiskey, not exceptional, but with improved quality, close to be part of the excellent ones. Then 90 to 93.5 is the 12 years old. Excellent to superb, a sure asset, and a good gift all the same. A whiskey with good technical mastery and balance, enough personality and complexity to get down to brass tacks. There you go. I can already tell you that all those three fall into those three categories, no problem. So now I had tried quickly. I have tried two expressions, two different bottlings of the heavily peated one. Again, at 84 ppm. Kilkerran. I did like them in a way, but for me they were obviously too young. There's around, in my guess, which is not an information again, it's no more than 3 to 5 years old. I also tried some that were advanced sample that even wasn't 3 years old. It's too feisty, it's too aggressive, it's not really to my liking. I see these more as experiments. I won't buy those, while the 12 is really must buy from this distillery. The 8 bourbon is interesting, and now we're gonna arrive to one that had some popular success and also a lot of flipping. So you see it's quite amber, it's quite dark. But also some of the reviewers, not all, I'm not going to detail, didn't like it and did found this unbalanced and too aggressive and too heavy on the sherry. So I tried it once, and like I said on Twitter, kind of understood the two point of views. But look at that color, it's insane. So it's a bit more reddish, but it's not too far, not so far from the early 2000s, late 90s releases of SPRINGBANK. From the 12 years old 100 proof to the 25 years old of that time, they had this color, and also some local barleys from the 60s. That said, this one is only 8 years old. It's heavily sherried, so probably first fill. Doesn't say anywhere I looked. So mahogany color, yeah, with the red-orange hues. Now I think the level of funkiness of this one is going to increase on the nose. So the sample has opened up a bit, which is not bad. Though the smoke is covering a lot of things for me in this one, and also some tannic elements that are raising the fruitiness on the nose. That said, I'm starting to get some dark chocolate and ripe fruits and dark fruits as well. It's something that needs probably a quarter in a glass. We don't have time, it's already very long. But yeah, there's some potential. There's not the same nose as the sherry bombs like Abelard Abuna or Natural Oloroso, or some Glendronach heavily sherried and stuff. This is different. It has the smoke, the peated element to take into account, and also the Campbeltown funkiness. So these are a bit under powering the sherried profile that could have. But as it's not a perfume, the most important thing is the palate, right? Slangeva. This is crazy whiskey. This is a raw power, as Iggy Pop and the Stooges were saying. I won't say it's over, yeah, maybe 80% funkiness, but I'm not sure. I wrote a lot of notes in French. I'm sorry for the wait. I'm examining the rating if I stick to it or not. It's the problem once again with not having the bottle. I might finish it because I'm worried if it stays too much in the almost empty sample, it's not gonna be improving. More fresh notes. So dark fruit, and I love this, something I like a lot and something I like less. What I like a lot, like in my Ardbeg Peaks cask from Elements of Islay, there's the combination of the heavy smoke and heavy sherry produces some very appealing dark chocolate, smoked dark chocolate notes, ripe fruit, dates, raisins, figs, and when I say dark chocolate, yeah, I wrote 80% cocoa fat. So yeah, I wrote some, yeah, oak, very oaky, very spicy, chili pepper, even. In English you say Ovaltine, we said Ovomaltine in French. It's also a brand, but burnt caramel, slight hint of burnt tide, black mushrooms, some ashy smoke, but still okay. Concentrated caramel, but a different note than the burnt caramel. So very dark, like some carambar bars in French, and also some maybe black halva from Greece. It's another thing, maybe not relating to everywhere. Yeah, so something very interesting, and like I wrote on Twitter, for blenders, maybe to add very few of it to some lightly sherried ones, Springbanks of course, to see what's going on. It has a reminiscence of the old Springbanks, the ones we cherish, we who tried them back in the days, the now very expensive and legendary ones, but local barleys and others. But it's not as balanced. This is not super balanced. This is way too oaky for the average of people. This is dusty. This changes a bit over time. It's a bit hard to honestly to rate. So I think also on 15. One. Okay. I'm gonna shock you because the problem of this one is it's young and it doesn't have enough substance texture wise to sustain the flavors it's supposed to sustain in the length of the palate, and not to drown them into dry smoke. And that's the problem of the finish without water. So that's why I'm gonna tell you the rating after. That's why it's not as good as I thought. I didn't thought really. Trying to stay away from the hype and because we're each one of us is different, right? But thank you very much to Luna and to Roy for this rare opportunity to try those, because now the 8, especially the Oloroso one, is very hard to find if you didn't pick it up very quickly. It's secondary market thing. We have to say also that because the packaging is a bit cheap, let's say very minimal, less sexy, way less sexy for me than Springbank, and I don't like the fact this appears like gel. I know it's the windows of the steer room, but I don't like it. It appears like a gel for me. That allows them to keep very low prices, which is very fair. Wow. Water improves it. I have to say, but it's on the edge. Chili pepper and smoke comes, ashy smoke comes back quick. Ripe fruits and dark chocolate, but then they're drowned into the smoke quickly. So as much as I think this is interesting and this is good in a way, my rating has to take into account all these elements of satisfaction, length, balance, complexity. I'm gonna surprise you. The rating of this one is gonna be under, if I may say, the comment about this one, which when the comment stays positive while the rating stays very moderate, because there's a frustration in this dram. That's why I rate it 85 out of 100. And if I'm gifted at some point this bottle, I will be happy to have it. I will work with it to do some blending experiments. If I see this at 40-50 euros, which will never happen, I might be tempted, but 100 and more, 80, 100 or more, never. No. Maybe I will regret this statement if I try it at other occasions. Like I said, bottle is not a sample, so might be reservations. There are reservations. Interesting, very interesting, but certainly not the one to recommend to beginners. Absolutely not. Even the Cask Strength bourbon, I will not recommend it to beginners, but the 12, yeah, of course. The 12 is the winner of this flight, score-wise as well. But the 3 were interesting, and I'm happy to have some more. And I might do an experiment which will need some time to, yeah, I'm gonna do that, which will need some time to, I think I'm gonna try to mix those 2. But I'm gonna give you, I'm gonna tell you to come back later on for this, because it needs to settle down in the sample. Well, that's it. Hope you were not disappointed about my ratings, statements, opinions, and informations that were a bit long. It's the way I work. I don't pretend to be the best reviewers, but I do something different. And I would like to thank you again for trusting me for what I'm doing. So thank you and see you next time. I will do some reviews in French in between. I'm trying to give satisfaction to everyone. It's not easy because I'm a bit late on reviewing things. And I wish you a great day or weekend. Thank you.